This week, we talk about our first impressions of the 2022 Acura MDX. We share our list of the best new and used cars for teens, and we discuss the best ways to secure your pet in your vehicle. Next on Talking Cars. Hi, and welcome to Talking Cars. I'm Jennifer Stockberger.
I'm Ryan Pizlakowski.
And I'm Alex Knizek.
Say what? Alex Knizek? A new face on Talking
That's right.
Cars? I love it. So welcome, Alex.
Thank you, Jen.
Alex joined CR and our testing team in mid-COVID last July. So it seems like you've been here longer, but
Feels longer.
Certainly integrated into our testing team and now going to be part of our Talking Cars team. So we get a common question all the time is, how can I get a job there? So Alex, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got a job here.
Absolutely. I mean, first and foremost, I think like most of us, huge car nerd since day one. So that's kind of steered all my career decisions, I'll put it that way. But beyond that, background is in mechanical engineering and automotive engineering. And I worked at Ford for a little while as an ergonomics engineer, kind of got a little background there, working for a big automaker, which was a huge help. And then went to Stanley Black & Decker for a little while and did some product development there for automotive tools. And then that was my previous job before coming to CR. But I think I always knew that I would end up here. So that was it guided me from the beginning. But my background was definitely mostly product development until coming to the testing side, which I enjoyed product development, but I'm definitely loving what I do now.
Yeah, I remember coming and thinking, I always worked on one little piece of a car. This holistic, you get to look at every aspect of the car. I remember thinking that was really, really amazing when I first started. Many
I did a lot of testing and development on switches. So if that excites you, then there might be an opening for you.
There you go. There you go. Well, again, we welcome you and we look forward to your insights and new opinions.
Thank you.
So
I'm excited to be here.
Good. We've had some amazing weather in Connecticut, a real spring, as I like to say. We didn't just jump from winter to summer, which means lots of testing going on at the track. Ryan, I know you've been super busy on both cars and tires. What's going on lately at the track?
Yes, luckily the weather's been beautiful, and it's actually the last few days really started to warm up. We're actually on our last tire test of the year, which is wet handling, and it's probably the most fun of all the tests we do because we get to actually drive around a coned course on our VDA, our vehicle dynamics area. Now that sounds fancy, but it's just a giant smooth parking lot that we cover with water, and we put an autocross course out there, which is basically a course of cones, and you drive through the course as fast as you can, and we have a timer, and then after I drive through it, I write my comments on what I experienced, and then I give it a rating, and then I write down the time. There's a little timer that we set up. It works quite well, and the weather's been good, so we're doing that. It's a busy time of the year when the weather gets nice like this after the winter, and sometimes spring is not that nice, until it really warms up like this. It gets super busy. So between car testing and tire testing, it's busy.
Yeah, it's like the track comes to life when that warm weather hits. And Ryan,
it feels good.
I do look at that test and think, it's a tough job, but someone has to do it.
You know what though? So last year we did it with a Kia Telluride and a Chevy Silverado, and that is not really that fun. Next year we'll be using a Toyota 86 likely, so that'll be fun.
There you go, more fun. And what are you using this year? What was in the Camry?
Toyota Camry, and it's mildly boring.
Boring, but still fun.
Yeah.
Still fun.
Somewhere in between Telluride and
exactly. It's a progression.
There you go. So also this week, we've been very busy, is our second release in collaboration with the Insurance Institute for Highway Safety of the best cars for young drivers. And this is intended to be kind of a Goldilocks, merging performance, reliability, and crash protection. So Ryan, give us a little bit of what the criteria for these lists of cars are from the CR side.
This is a culmination of IIHS and CR data, right? So from the CR side, First and foremost, no matter if it's a new or used car, it has to have electronic stability control on board. So, and that doesn't mean these cars are going to be from 2012 and up. There are some from prior to that because they had stability control before they were mandated in 2012.
As standard, right? As standard.
As standard, correct. So they had to have it at that point in 2012. So for the used vehicles, they must have an above average reliability score from our CR member survey, which we send out every year. Our emergency handling scores must be average or better in our test. And for new vehicles, they have to have average or better reliability. So that's, a 3 out of 5, basically. Average or better scores in our CR emergency handling tests. And I think this is actually kind of a good one. They have to have a good or better rating for ease of use of controls, because these cars have all kinds of gizmos in them now to distract you. And that's, the number one thing, especially with the younger drivers, and, the inexperience, that could get you tangled up, so.
For sure.
That's from the CR side.
And from the IIHS side, Alex, what's the addition there?
Sure. So they kind of bring the crashworthiness and insurance side of things to the table here. So all the cars on the list must have at least a good rating for 4 of the crash tests. So the moderate overlap test, side impact, roof crush, and then also head restraints. And then they must be a top pick or top safety pick plus, which considers all 6 tests. So, and then also there's the insurance piece. So we won't include any vehicles that are, have above average insurance claims on them.
One thing too, I was involved in preparing the lists. Just be warned, the used car market, we've already talked about it a ton. I was taking cars that were a year or two older and actually increasing the prices, looking at increased prices on these cars. So again, this list is meant for young drivers, but might be a good resource for anybody because the used market is so hot of getting a car that has good reliability and it's going to go more for your dollar because it's probably going to be an older car than you thought.
Right. Yeah.
One thing too, and I always talk a lot about obviously picking cars for my young drivers because I have 2 of them. I want to know from you guys, say you were the young, cool dad of a 17-year-old boy, worst scenario like I have. What car would you pick, Alex, from this list and why?
Okay, sure. I actually had to choose 2. So my unrealistic option, slightly unrealistic, is the Mazda 6 from 2018 or newer because it comes with blind spot as standard and forward collision warning. But I chose it because you can get it with a manual. And my dad made sure that the car that my brother and I shared when we were 17 was a manual. And even if you never drive one again, I think it gives you a good appreciation for the car and for driving. But I think the RAV4 2016 or newer is also a great choice because of as long as you find one with Toyota Safety Sense on it, you get all those great standard features. So that would be my more realistic and easy to find choice.
Yeah, my 1980 Rabbit diesel was a manual that I learned on.
There you go.
So, Ryan, what would you pick?
I know. Oh, my goodness. When I think of my first car and then I think of my choice, I don't know how I came to that choice. I had an 86 BMW 3 Series that was a manual, of course, no stability control, didn't have ABS, and it didn't even have heat when I first got it. So I would pick the CX-5, Mazda CX-5 from both new and used list. I wildly agree with Alex on the manual thing, but you should always learn it. But I think for a first driver, those are 2 fantastic cars. They're good looking. They have room in them. I can remember trying to stuff my bicycle in the back of my car and bungeeing the tailgate down or the trunk lid down. It would just be a lot nicer to be able to have that, and it's all-wheel drive. So
Right.
Great. So, of course, you will find the full list of best new and used cars for young drivers at consumerreports.org. And again, pick the car that's going to make your money go a little further if you can't wait. And you have to get something for a young driver right now. So moving on to From the Track, we have our first impressions of the 2022 Acura MDX. So I was actually a little surprised, talk about another thing to make me feel old, that this is a 20-year-old nameplate. My best friend had an Acura MDX many years ago. And it's kind of an under the radar because it has been so long that it's been out there. It was only outsold in 2020 by the X5 and the Lexus RX. So it's still a super popular SUV, redesigned for 2022. So let's start with you on this one, Alex. What are your first impressions of the MDX?
I think, it's a pretty competitive, comfortable, 3-row SUV, and it kind of lands in this interesting space where, most competitors are probably just 2 rows. And this adds in that 3rd row, which, may not be suitable for adults, but, if you have kids and you think you get use out of that on occasion, then it absolutely fits the bill nicely. And I think it undercuts some of the German competitors in terms of price that you might otherwise kind of want to flock to a little bit. So it definitely lands in the price bracket nicely. But yeah, as I said, I think the powertrain is a unique part of this car and definitely a highlight. That naturally aspirated 3.5 liter V6 is unusual these days. It used to be kind of common, but it's actually pretty unusual. And they hook it up to their in-house developed 10-speed automatic, which behaves well. It's behaved well in the TLX that we drove as well, and it's just as good here. I do think customers who might be used to the common turbo 4 cylinders now, where all the torque is down low and you just get a lot of grunt off the line. This engine, while powerful, it definitely makes its power higher in the RPM range. So I think if you're coming from something like that, it might be an adjustment, but a good one, and it sounds nice too.
This is a nice throwback though. I when I get in and I feel that V6 is just raw, naturally aspirated, and it's got a nice linear power band. I love it. I mean, it sounds pretty good, I think too. But this is definitely, to your point, this is I think for me the high point of this car. It's just a great powertrain.
And Acura likes to call it a flagship, and I don't know where you guys feel on that. I didn't quite get that impression if they didn't tell me ahead of time that they call this their flagship SUV. I mean, it's nice and competitive, but, when I think of a flagship, it's either a crazy fast car or one that's ultra luxurious, and maybe it falls somewhere a little short of that, but I do think it is pretty nice.
But maybe the flagship is just the sales volume. If it's still that great a volume, maybe that's where the flagship comes from. Yeah, I really like this car as well. And you guys touched on both of it. It's a 3rd row without being a giant vehicle. So I love that. Some of the redesign had some suspension tuning, stiffening, handling advances. I think it rides and handles well without being on the overly stiff side. They didn't alter it dramatically. Powertrain is absolutely its high point. Smooth shifts, smooth power delivery, all of that. A couple smaller things is that Acura made, you just mentioned it, Ryan, in the teen cars, made blind spot warning standard. We don't often see that, though we know it's a feature that people love, love, love. So in addition to the other automatic emergency braking, forward collision warning, they lumped in the blind spot warning in this iteration. So that's great for buyers. One thing we didn't mention is the controls. Acura has.
I haven't gotten there yet. Yeah.
Oh, you didn't get there.
I haven't. I haven't gotten there yet. Yeah. No,
we can't let that go by though.
No.
Oh God, no. So yeah, I mean, like I said, the powertrain's fantastic. I fit in the car wonderfully. It's great seats. The ergonomics are great for me, like the driving position, and whatnot, and it handles well, like you just said, and it rides well. But I could not buy this car, because of what do they call it? Acura, what do they call it? The touchpad thing.
I forget their exact.
It's horrible. It's absolutely terrible, and it's dangerous. I mean, I think it's dangerous. It's so distracting. I can't believe they're still pushing forward with it. To be honest with you, it's been in the last couple of editions. It's slightly modified, but the last couple of cars that Acuras we've had, and it's just it's awful. It's really terrible.
Yeah, I think you touched on it there. The fact that we've driven multiple Acuras with the system, and other cars, you kind of get to learn it, and you're learning it here too, but we're not getting any better at it because it just continues to be distracting and tedious.
Right.
To me, it's the way it operates. The minute you it's a touchpad, which we've seen in other vehicles, but the minute you lift your finger off it, you start from scratch again. So you can't really scroll easily, and then you're starting over, and there's a lot. And I agree with you, Alex. Doesn't matter how long you've been driving this. You get a little bit used to it, but it's not gonna change.
So Right. Like to your point, Jen, like the Lexus has that similar thing, but it stays in that area and it's highlighted. So it's just easier. It's still not good. I think I don't like that system either, but this is a nightmare if you ask me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Those act more like a cursor on a computer, whereas
Exactly.
I think they call it like true positioning or absolute positioning, right? Where if you tap the middle of it, it's going to show up on the middle of every time and then reset, as you said, Jen. And you get a little bit of like a bigger screen in this over the TLX, which makes it maybe marginally more easy to use because you have larger targets on the screen, right? But yeah, ultimately it's still very distracting. And I would say anybody who considers looking at this car or any Acura, go try it out before you.
This is one of those sit in the parking lot and play with it as part of your test drive.
It's never going to end up on the teen drivers list, of course.
Right, the controls, unless they change it, right? You're right.
Unless they change it.
Yeah. So, yeah. And the other one thing I do want to mention is Acura, particularly the MDX, has had somewhat of a spotty reliability. You know, you think Honda and a variant of Honda, and you think, oh, these will be great. Like Honda, has not been consistent. It's so certainly check it out. Of course, we will do all the testing and have reliability predictions and everything when we complete it. So that's the 2022 Acura MDX. So before moving on to your questions, I just want to remind you of the Talking Cars donation program. Everything we do, including testing, buying the test products, including cars, is funded by our members and donations, including producing this show. So anything you're able to contribute would be most welcome at cr.org/give Talking Cars. And we thank you as always. So moving on to your questions, we have 4 videos. So we are sharing.
Is this a first?
I know. I think so.
Is it a first? I think it is. No.
I don't know if we've had all videos. I think one other time I was on and we had it. But we love sharing our screen time with you. So as always, be it video or written questions, talkingcars@icloud.com. So our first question comes from Knizek. Take a listen.
So my question is that as we're all trying to go back to office to work, I'm looking to get a car that's going to be primarily used for commuting. I already have a Toyota Highlander, but obviously the gas mileage on that makes it hard to be a good commuter car. So I'm looking to buy an electric car. So as I look on consumerreports.org, I find that a lot of these electric cars have low reliability or predicted reliability. So I was wondering, is there a way to look up what the reasons for those low reliability scores on particular cars, like for example a Tesla, are, and if the manufacturer in the more recent versions has addressed any of those concerns?
So Knizek, as many people are, is looking to return to somewhat of a normal commute back to work and considering an EV. I just want to mention first, Knizek, that on our site, in addition to having its overall reliability prediction or record for a used car, you can scroll into that reliability tab on each car, and it does absolutely show you the problem areas. And, you know, it's funny. I use the Tesla Model 3 as an example. It may not be in EV related areas as you might think. So if you look at the Model 3, it's not major engine or battery issues. It's paint and trim and hardware. So just take a look at those. I do encourage you to scroll down and get into that detail a little bit. But Alex, how is EV reliability a little bit different than normally aspirated or even hybrid vehicles for that matter?
Yeah, sure. So I think what you commonly hear is that EVs are simpler, right, than a traditional gas car, which is true. You're dealing with far less moving parts between the battery and the motor versus, you know, an internal combustion engine. And I reached out to our data and reliability experts to get their opinion on this, and we have a great article on it. But, you know, the reason we're seeing a little bit of a dip in reliability with some of these EVs, at least the current crop that's coming out, is that they are typically being launched with totally new vehicle platforms, new technology that hasn't been used before. So, like you mentioned, a lot of the times that's the stuff that's actually going wrong. So it's the reliability is lower, and it just happens to be an EV. It's not that the motors are necessarily failing or the batteries are failing. And there are some examples where if you dig down into it, like you said, you might see that type of information. But yeah, generally, it's the fact that it's just being launched as a totally new product. So I would say if you can look at something that's been around longer, like a Bolt or a Leaf, you might see different results than like an e-tron or something similar.
Yeah, I did notice too. EVs just are a smaller market. So we have certain criteria. We have to have a certain sample size before we will report the reliability from our surveys. And some of those EVs just aren't purchased enough or not reported enough in our member surveys to make the prediction. So there are just not as many of them out there. But again, I was going to mention the Bolt. That's got excellent reliability.
Absolutely.
So maybe Nice Sheet, that's something to look at. So our next question comes from Daniel. And we've seen Daniel before. Welcome back. Daniel, what do you got?
One topic I hear you guys talking about a lot are confusing gear selector controls. This is a 2016 Mazda 6, and like many cars with automatic transmissions these days, it comes with a manual mode. Now, manufacturers seem to have agreed that if a manual mode is operated through paddle shifters, the right paddle is for upshifting and the left paddle is for downshifting. However, for sequential style shifters like this car has, I did a little research and it turns out manufacturers are all over the place. Audi, Hyundai, Infiniti, Kia, Lexus, Porsche, Toyota, and Volkswagen have their sequential styles where upshift is away from the driver, simulating a second to third, fourth to fifth shift, whereas Alfa Romeo, BMW, Dodge, Jeep, Land Rover, Maserati, and Mazda have upshift towards the driver, simulating first to second, third to fourth, fifth to sixth. And yeah, I know I'm one of the 12 people that use this thing, but can we come to an agreement over here?
So, Daniel, you might be preaching to the choir here on standardization. Certainly, we've talked about gear selectors, but this is specific to paddle shifters and semi-manual or semi-automatic. Ryan, do you use them, and where do you think the advantages are?
So I don't use them unless there's applications for them that make sense. For me, it's a sports car. The new Chevy Corvette we have has it's an automatic with paddle shifters, right? I drove that car around exclusively with the paddle shifters because it is so much fun. I mean, you feel like you're driving a Le Mans race car, right? However, if I get into I don't know what has paddle, a Hyundai Tucson, if it has paddle shifters on it, I'm not using them. I don't personally find a need for them. I mean, the automatic transmission today does a great job for that type of driving, right?
So, Alex, do you use them? Do you like them?
I do use them, not necessarily paddles versus, the shifter on this column or whatever, or on the center console. But I use them, my commute from my house to the track is pretty hilly, right? So I'll just use it to engine brake down hills. For me, pushing up to go up a gear and pulling back to go down a gear makes sense in my head.
Yeah, and to Daniel's point, if we haven't got gear selectors that are standard, and we see those all over the place, we're probably not going to have standardized shifters anytime soon. But great point, Daniel, and stay tuned. Our next question comes from Jim in Sioux Falls, South Dakota.
Why is it that some automakers, for example, Kia or Hyundai, seem to make improvements in their vehicles from year to year, when other manufacturers take 5, 6, 7 years before they finally make improvements, even though auto reviewers like yourself have roundly criticized certain features of their vehicles? It's as if they don't take competitors' cars for a drive and see how they need to step up their game if they want to maintain or grow their market share. Am I the only one that feels this way? Thanks.
So Jim's asking, what is the difference between manufacturers and making changes to their vehicles? Alex, you have thoughts for Jim.
Sure. I think, you got to remember that each company is different and they're all going to have their different approaches to this, whether they're more conservative or more aggressive in making changes, think Hyundai and Kia versus Toyota maybe. So it depends on their strategy also of how often they take customer feedback, how they like to implement it. So all those things have to be considered and they're all different. But also I think it's important to remember that making changes and updates doesn't necessarily equate to sales, right? Think about the Tacoma and 4Runner that Toyota has. Incremental, slow. They've been on the market on the same, platform for over 10 years. And it doesn't matter. They sell like crazy. So why fix what's not broken in that scenario?
I was going to say, if it ain't broke. Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much. So I think, somebody like Hyundai and Kia, Jen, we were talking that maybe they've got a little bit more to prove, right? So they're more willing to take a little bit more risk and change the product more regularly.
Or make a vehicle they can market with big changes. Say, hey, look at, and value. They were selling on value, that you get all these things for less dollars than the Toyota.
Right.
So
it's kind of interesting because, Toyota's been around, at least in the U.S. longer, and they've established that, their name. Now, Hyundai, Kia, they're up and coming, and they're super aggressive, with trying to catch up, and they're there. I mean, they make amazing cars, right? So it's just interesting, if that can affect, if that affects the reliability or not. You have a Toyota that the less you change it, the better it is. Once you perfect it, right? Like you said, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, But it also costs the company money to make a lot of changes every year, right? I mean, you have to refit the interior if you're going to do a whole new dash or whatever. I mean, that gets expensive. So that's all weighed in too.
All the
Could
tooling.
affect reliability.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, imagine. Yeah.
And it might be intentional. We're not going to mess with our reliability. And all that tooling, you talk about 4Runner, Tacoma, they don't owe Toyota a dime. They're pure profit at this point.
They've only had to make like 4 different fender panel molds over the past 50 years or something, right? I mean, the thing didn't change much, so that's the beauty of it for them.
Yeah, they're actually wearing the molds out before they redesign them. They got to make new ones of the same.
That's right. You're probably right. They have to retool, not new tool. And Ryan, you touched on a point. Hyundai and Kia they're there in our minds, but I still think, when you get out of CR, we're still doing some, they're still doing some convincing, I think, in the market overall.
Yeah, I think you're right about that.
Yeah. So
we are, I'll add to that real quick. Just, we're in an interesting spot where everybody is promoting their over-the-air update capability, right? So you're going to start to see, at least the promise is that you'll see more changes, at least from the software side of things, happen more regularly, even from more established companies like Ford with their F-150.
Yeah, and I think that's when implemented well, that's a great consumer benefit to not have to go in for just
absolutely,
whatever in the computer. I think that's great. Our last question comes from Sean in Pensacola, Florida. Take a listen.
Hey, Talking Cars. I have some pet-related questions involving the car, specifically how to safely transport your dog from point A to point B. I've been taking Apache to the bay and the dog parks pretty frequently, and I'm curious if he's the safest back where he is now, or if he needs to be in some sort of 3-point restraining system, like a seatbelt or what. I haven't really done any research on products they make for dogs, but I was curious if you could enlighten me on the best brands, what I should and shouldn't do. Is he best off back there or up here next to me? Appreciate the answers. Thank you again. Have a good one. Bye, Apache. Say bye.
So, first of all, Sean, Apache is a beautiful dog. I have a new puppy in my house, a golden retriever named Darcy, who's literally under my feet. So, your questions are real, and it shows you're a very thoughtful owner. Ryan, I know you just have cats. I'm sure you don't take the cats roaming around in the car with you.
They do not like getting in the car, I can tell you that.
So we've done a lot of work in collaboration with the Centers for Pet Safety on this topic. They have a lot of advice, Sean, on harnesses, crates. They actually do simulated crash testing with weighted dog-shaped dummies, much like we would do for child seats or the IIHS would do for cars with crash test dummies. So they're kind of the evaluator of the products. But there's some general rules, Ryan, that we can share with Sean as well.
Yeah. So, I mean, you don't want to hurt the animal, right? Obviously, God forbid you get in a car accident. I mean, you want to avoid that at all costs, right? But depending on the size of this dog, it's a mass inside of your vehicle, and when your vehicle comes to a abrupt stop or some sort of collision, the object wants to move. That's part of physics, right? They make devices for harnessing your dogs, or at least contain them into an area. Like in the video, he shows the dog in the back. Maybe they make like cages that will go up from the back of that seat and keep the dog in that area. The point is that that object can harm you obviously harm the dog, right? This goes for anyone. I mean, the half of the reason we wear seatbelts isn't even only for ourselves; it's for the other people in the vehicle, because you become a human, bowling ball, right? I mean, it sounds terrible, but that's the truth of it. So even in any object, I mean, if you're you have you're moving a microwave from the store in the back of your car, and it's just sitting on a flat surface and there's room around it, and you get in an accident, that thing's going to go flying, and it's a heavy object with sharp edges. It's it's not good, and it can be distracting.
Yeah, and obviously Apache's no slouch. I would say 75, 100-pound dog easily.
Right.
Alex, you were saying too, there's another aspect of pets being contained or harnessed.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, just driving around, I'll see very frequently people driving around with their pet, usually a dog, right? Not a cat. Just walking about the cabin of the car, back seat, front seat, trunk, if it's a SUV or whatever. And it's just a huge distraction, like Ryan said, to you driving if the dog's walking over your lap. Yeah, so it's just a safety concern for everybody if you let that happen. The dog, yourself, other drivers. So I definitely...
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, other drivers, you know how many times I'll be driving along and my girlfriend sees a dog in another car and she starts freaking out. Luckily, I'm driving, but people they love animals, so you turn your head, especially the dog's hanging, he's got his whole front half of his body hanging out the window. I mean, I've seen that
across your driving arm.
Oh yeah. I have seen cats sleeping on the rear deck lid in cars.
Oh, that's scary.
Yeah, but that's in a perfect height where that animal could go flying. So
yeah, and I totally get it. They are such a part of your family you want them near you, but that's all the more reason to make them safe. So it's funny, we are not allowed to have animals in our test vehicles, for sure. So when I have to move Darcy to a vet appointment or something, I either am in I actually borrow a car from my mother, and it's a Forester, and we put a divider up, much like Ryan was saying, and she goes in the cargo area. So pretty simple solutions, but that's what we would recommend to Sean. And to Ryan's point, we said weather's getting more awesome. I expect with COVID and safety, there's going to be some road trips in people's future. Think about how you load anything. Heavy stuff low, soft stuff high. So if you have a Coleman stove or, like Ryan said, something heavy, put it down low. Sleeping bags, duffel bags up top. So in the event of the hard brake, even doesn't even have to be a crash. Hard braking, AEB braking, that stuff's coming forward. A turn,
anything.
Absolutely.
Yeah, just try to actually secure it too.
Yeah. Yep. So that will do it for this episode. We actually hope you're doing some road trips. Thank you, Alex. Welcome addition to this. Welcome addition. You were amazing. So we look forward to seeing you soon. See the show notes below. Keep the questions coming. talkingcars@icloud.com. And we will see you next time.